Hello, brothers and sisters. Michael, humble seeker of truth, for the two witnesses. So, on the last day or so, Father has given me much added wisdom about the two witnesses. There's some things I've seen for a while now that I have just hung on to, prayed about, needed further wisdom, and Father has given it. Maybe you've pondered, who are the two witnesses? A lot of people think Elijah and Moses. That's interesting, seeing as they're the ones who were transfigured, or Christ was transfigured and then they showed up, Moses and Elijah. Well, do they reincarnate and appear on the earth as the two witnesses? No, they don't. If it were to have anything to do with them, it would be mantles. Is it two other guys? So there's a few common options out there. Enoch comes into play, and is it two guys? Or is it something else? Is it Jews and Gentiles? Lots of teachings out there. I've heard a pretty good one now making a case for Jews and Gentiles. No, that's not it either, and we're going to see clearly what it is as now Father has taught us. Tomorrow I'm going to do a video on the half hour of silence in heaven. Father has also revealed that. So not only do I know whether it's figurative or literal, but I know exactly how long it is and exactly what it applies to and when. Because he's told me now. Us now. At least as of tomorrow. So that one will be tomorrow. I'm going to split them up because they're kind of different topics, of course related here in the end times. But yeah. So, two witnesses. Going to do this a little different. No charts for this teaching. A couple people have expressed they like that better. I like it better. It's hard to hold the chart and so yeah, it's simpler to do. I'm going to do it. It's up here, and I have some scribbly notes, and I'm going to try to teach from that. If it's confusing at the end, I'll have to redo my notes and maybe make a few charts and redo it again. But he gave it to me. I'm excited to give it to you. And so I'm going to. Hope you're blessed this day as we wait for the Lord. Well, let's go to Revelation 11. It's interesting that these topics that people have kicked around, that we've kicked around for a long time, trying to discern and understand, once he explains them and teaches them, like the half hour silence is so simple and so clear, maybe a little bit less so with the two witnesses, but we'll see what I believe he has had to say. So let's start in chapter 11 of Revelation, verse 1. And there was given unto me a reed like unto a rod, and I stood and said, Rise, measure the temple of God and the altar and them that worship therein. That measuring is day of the Lord. It's rapture, or the period of time that from the declaration to the gathering and gone. But the court that which is without the temple leave out, measure it not, for it's given to the Gentiles. And the holy city they shall tread underfoot 42 months. Now, we've talked a whole bunch about that. It's not 7 years. You can't state it any clearer. But here's the question. You know, the book of Revelation is pretty interesting in light of how people look at it. And I say that because, you know, there's a lot of figurative language in this Bible, as he spoke in parables and riddles and hidden wisdom. And lots of figures. So we get down to the most figurative book in the entire Word of God, and we start trying to read everything as it's literal. Now, maybe it is and maybe it isn't. Okay, that's part of our dilemma. It's part of our quandary. So, is the 42 months literal or is it figurative? And how do we know? How can we know for sure? Well, there's a really specific answer for that, because that period of time, he states it 4 different ways, 5 if you want to be super accurate with it, but 4 different distinct ways so that we know it's a literal period of time. He states it 42 months. In Revelation 12, he states it as 1,260 days. In Revelation 12:6, he states it as a times and a half in Revelation 12:14. Well, what's the 4th way? Well, we're going to get to that. It is a literal period of time, and that's why he pins it 4 different ways, so that we know. Okay, so let's keep going. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses. So clearly this is during the 42 months of great tribulation. That's why he lists the 42 months first. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth. See, he does that so we know it's a literal period of time. He hits us with 42 months and he says, hey, just in case you're thinking that's figurative, 1,260 days, 30-day months. It's very important. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. Well, what does that mean? Let's keep going. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceeds out of their mouth and devours their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must be killed in this manner be killed. These have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. And my Bible is torn. Their dead bodies will lie in the streets. Sorry, guys. I can't read it. The people with the great city. Fear spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. Oop, that. Okay, you can read that verse. Great. Yep, spiritually, the city that their bodies are laying out in is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. Very easy to see in the word that is Jerusalem. Now, it could be put for the whole earth, but the great city here is also that great city mystery, Babylon the Great, and so it matters to understand that it's Jerusalem. Now, the whole world's getting judged with it, but still, for accuracy and understanding, super important. And they have the, verse 9, and they of the people, kindreds, tongues, nations, shall see their dead bodies lie in the streets 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put into graves. That's verse 184, by the way. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these 2 prophets tormented them that dwell on the earth. And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. In the same hour was there a great earthquake, 10th part of the city fell, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted, and gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe is past. Behold, the third woe comes quickly. It's important to understand the third woe is the 7 bowls. Beginning becomes the end, becomes the next beginning. So let's keep going for a minute. So there's people that teach this as like its own rapture, its own little mini rapture, its own gathering. Is it? No, it's not. It's the last trumpet, okay? So now he's going to tell us what it is that caught them up, or when. And the 7th angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven, and you can read this, and you know it's last trumpet, lost sheep go home at the last trumpet. Okay, so are they lost sheep then, these 2 witnesses? Are they 99 sheep that came back? Are they 2 guys? Well, excellent questions. First of all, let's chat a bit. What does Father do to establish 2 entities or individuals? All kinds of stuff, over and over and over. The menorah, 3 branches this side, 3 branches that side. The Ark of the Covenant, cherubim on this end, cherubim on that end, on the mercy seat, our meeting place with God. Those 2 cherubim represent the 100 sheep, as do the 6 branches on the 7-candle menorah. The middle one's Jesus Christ. Behold the hand, behold the nail, the name of God. 2 hands, 4 nails, but the first 2 were him. It's a harvest model, the name of God. The first 2 nails were him and the first fruits resurrected right after him a couple thousand years ago. But God's declared the end from the beginning. 2 hands at the end. 99 sheep, lost sheep. 3 branches this side, 3 branches that side. 2 pillars in Solomon's temple, Jachin and Boaz. 99 sheep and lost sheep, over and over and over. Phi divided down the middle. Ark 1, 99 sheep, bride of Christ. Ark 2, lost sheep, little sister. Corners and gleanings of the harvest. Same model, over and over and over. There's way over a dozen examples. We just touched on a few. 5 wise, 5 foolish virgins. They all have oil. And oil there is wisdom, not spirit. It can't be spirit. And it's not. And yeah, they all had oil because all the lamps were lit. The lamps couldn't have went out if they didn't have oil in the first place. The wisdom is that of Yahweh, is the one true God, creator of heaven and earth. The extra oil is understanding that Jesus Christ, the way, the truth, the life, and his only begotten Son. Yeah, so they got to go into Jacob's trouble by extra oil. The lost sheep, the other pillar, the other 3 branches, the other side of Phi, the other hand. And the angel, Daniel 12:7, lifts up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven and swears by him forever. It shall be for a divine appointment and a divine appointment and a half. Another part of the conversation. 99 sheep, lost sheep. Revelation 10:4, the archangel now, after the gathering of 99 sheep, he just holds up one hand. Oh, and those should be delayed no longer, but at the 7th trumpet, at the voice of the last trumpet. Lost sheep. Okay. Go to Hebrews 11. As we go there, go ahead. I'm going to just leave you with this thought. Oops, I got to get in the right chapter. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth, 42 months. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks. Well, let's start with the 2 olive trees, because this is a deal maker in light of this locks her down right here, and we need it locked down to move forward. Okay? Who are the two olive trees? Hebrews 11, super clear. Not Hebrews 11, sorry. No. Sorry, it's not in Hebrews. It's in Romans 11, I think. Yes. Let's pick this up in, let's just pick it up in verse 11. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid, but rather through their fall, the Jews, salvation is come unto the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy. Now if the fall of them be the riches of the world, and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? For I speak to you, Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify mine office, but by any means I may provoke to emulation them that which are my flesh, and might save some of them. He's trying to wake the Jews up by preaching to the Gentiles, or at least that's what he's talking about right here. For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be? But life from the dead. For if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy, and if the root be holy, so are the branches. And if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree, wert grafted in among them, and with them partakers of the root and the fatness of the olive tree, the Jews. Jews are the natural olive tree. The Gentiles are the wild olive tree. How many olive trees? 2. How many olive trees in Revelation 11? 2. Is it then Jew and Gentile? No. Stick with me. Boast not against the branches, verse 18, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root bears thee. You got no reason to boast or boast against the Jews. How can you not believe? We don't have any reason to boast. We boast in the Lord. He gets all the glory. Our eyes wouldn't be opened if it wasn't for him and for our Father. Thou wilt then say, the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief, they were broken off, the natural branches, the Jews. And thou stands by faith, but be not high-minded, but fear. For if God spared not the natural branches, verse 21, take heed lest he also spare not thee. Verse 22, behold therefore the goodness and severity of God, because, tell you what, beginning at 22, they're both coming to pass. Day of division, the goodness and severity of God. But toward thee goodness, if thou continue in his goodness, otherwise thou also shalt be cut off. And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in. For God is able to graft them in again. See, they're blind. They're almost all lost sheep. But their eyes are going to get opened, and he's going to graft them in again and save them. He loves them. And we should. For if thou wert cut off out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and wert grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more shall these, which be the natural branches, be grafted in to their own olive tree? For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness, in part, is happened to Israel, until the time of the Gentiles be, until the fullness, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. Now that fullness of the Gentiles is the 42 months. And it's in that 42 months that their eyes get opened. See, some people teach that the time of the Gentiles is the last 2,000 years. This proves that that cannot be the case, because their eyes weren't open during that time. They get opened during the 42 months, clearly. The time of the Gentiles is the 42 months. It's called Jacob's trouble, great tribulation, which we are saved from that wrath to come. Verse 26, and so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant unto them, which I shall take away their sins. Okay, super clear. 2 olive trees that are being talked about are Jew and Gentile. So how can it not then just be Jew and Gentile? Well, because we don't just take one thing and try to understand a difficult topic, or one that's been challenging for most to discern, if not all. We got to use all of it. We got this 2-part model over and over, okay, that are made up of 99 sheep and lost sheep, which are made up of what? Jew and Gentile. Both gatherings are Jew and Gentile. The Jews, for the most part, are blind, but there are some, it started with them. Certainly the apostles were saved, right? So it started with the Jews. And all those that believed on the apostles, seeds planted, and the gospel in their mouth. Jew and Gentile. Well, so is the main harvest. The 99 sheep is also Jew and Gentile. Oh, that was the point I was making. Jew and Gentile. Same thing with lost sheep. Now, where it's mostly lost sheep, nothing prevents the Gentiles from getting saved or accepting Christ and getting saved. They got to wait for that Spirit and believe unto death, if it comes to that for them. And it may be a lot easier to be a 99 sheep. Anyway, both gatherings are Jew and Gentile. So yes, there is, the 2 witnesses are the 2 trees. But look, notice a very important detail that we have with the 2 trees. We got the natural tree and we got the wild tree, right? Well, then how do we make this, slam this into, well, they're both Jew and Gentile? Well, simple. Because we're grafted in, verse 17. And if some of the branches be broken off, Jews, and thou being a wild olive tree, wert grafted in among them. See, yes, there's 2 olive trees, but both trees are grafted together, Jew and Gentile. Okay, but 2 witnesses, 99 sheep and lost sheep. But what about the 3 days? Where does this period of time God's talking about in Revelation 11? A big part of that's back in Daniel, right? I mean, we got the 70 weeks of Daniel, we got Daniel 12, we got all this information back there. Daniel 10, Michael at the river, 10:4, just what's the premise of the 70 weeks of Daniel? Look, let me show you something quick. Daniel 9, verse 24. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people. And upon thy holy city to finish transgression, make an end of sins, make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Now, there's our foundation. And we know the whole premise of this 70 weeks of Daniel is a day equals a year. Okay? So now, go to Revelation 10. We're talking about sealing up vision and prophecy. So to seal it up, well, I mean, the 70 weeks brings us to it's all fulfilled. That's the sealing up it's talking about there. Everything's done. All fulfilled. At that end of that 70 weeks. It's from then until the end be. We know that from the visions themselves. We're from then until the end. Not to the middle. Doesn't mean there can't be an application about the middle, but he's declared the end from the beginning and throughout ancient times. Okay, so forgot where I was going. Revelation 10, let's pick it up in verse 4. And when the seven thunders had uttered their voices, I was about to write, and I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, seal up those things which the seven thunders uttered, and write them not. We know that declares the day of warning, 3:2:21, day of declaration, 4:9, 4:10:21. Child being born, 12:23. Child being circumcised, 12:31. Be ready against the third day? I don't know. Verse 5, and the angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth lifted up his hand to heaven. See, just the one hand now, because 99 sheep are home. This is an archangel. He's got an ark on his head, a rainbow. 7 colors, 7 trumpets. Spiritual completion and perfection at the 7th trumpet, when there shall be. Verse 6, and I swear by him that lives forever and ever, who created heaven, the things that are therein, and the earth, and the things that are therein, and the sea, and the things that there are therein, that there should be time or delay no longer. Bringing us to when? But in the days of the voice of the 7th angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as he hath declared to his servants the prophets. Well, that is absolutely directly linked to the 70 weeks of Daniel, with about a foot thick chain. Well, the reason I'm pointing this out is because the whole premise of Daniel is a day equals a year. Same thing in Daniel 12 with the 1290 and the 1335. Doesn't mean there isn't an application in days, but we start with the same thing as Daniel 9, where the foundation is set. Day equals a year. When we do that in Daniel 12, it pins 2021. It's the clearest timeline prophecy in the Word of God. Only one application of it. And a day equals a year. Okay, well, understanding that. See, we don't just read this 3.5 days. Well, maybe it's 3.5 years. No, we need to see it in the Word and understand why. So 2 reasons why we know for an absolute fact that this 3.5 days is not literal. You can't just all of a sudden read things as literal. You can explore it, but Father will tell you why you can. He hasn't done that. He's told us the opposite, and I'm telling you how. A day equals a year here, so now here's our 4th way. 42 months, 1,260 days, a times and half. And 3.5 days, a day equals a year. Who think it's just random coincidence that he happened to pick 3.5 days? Not 3 days, 3.5. Anybody ever wonder why is it 3.5? Because it's not literal. It's figurative for a day equals a year, and it's the exact same period of time as being talked about. Because the 2 witnesses aren't 2 individuals. They are the 2 witnesses, the 99 sheep and the lost sheep. Now watch this. I'll tell you what, the only way to discern this, Father had to teach us about the woman and the child first. If you haven't seen that video, you might want to go check it out. I should have brought that up front. But so the child is those members of the bride that come back across the river, that were at the bridge and that they come back across the river. Okay, that's the child that rules with a rod of iron. The woman, in 1 minute, she's going to the place prepared for her. 12:12 maybe, Revelation? Right in there? 13? 13, 14? Anyway, one verse she's going to the place prepared of God for her. The next verse, she's getting persecuted on the earth. So you've got to be able to discern how that's possible. That the woman is the bride, and she goes home. Okay, but the little sister, the other woman, he just couples it in woman. It's hidden wisdom. The bride goes home. The child part of the bride comes back across the river. And the little sister part of the bride, the lost sheep, they go into Jacob's trouble and they get persecuted. He makes war against them. Okay, so we get to Revelation 11. So just like the woman is both the bride and the little sister, they and them, in verse 7, and when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. Lost sheep. Not bride. Not child. You can't both rule with a rod of iron and get crushed and killed. You can't both be in Psalm 91, in Jacob's trouble, abiding under the shadow of the wing of the Almighty, and have angels protecting you and holding you up so that you don't dash your foot against a stone and get killed. They cannot both be true. And this gets really personal to moi. It does. I'm not showing you the numbers right now. Both Old Testament and New pins it down as much as everything that he's been showing. Okay? And you know what? If that's the case, and I told you this is verse 184. Well, verse 9. They see their dead bodies in the street 3.5 days. That's verse 184. I'm 184. I'll tell you what. There is no burden of the Lord. There is only the privilege of service. If that is what it was talking about, and that would glorify our Father and our Son, and thus bless our family, count me in. There is no burden. Only the privilege of serving our Father, our Lord, and our family at any price, at any cost. To stand for the light. For the one true God and his Son. Against evil and wickedness in the synagogue of Satan. Worthy of any price. I do not have a need to explain this in some other way so that I feel better in my mind because, well, I can't wrap my mind around that. No, that is not the case. And I might be just, maybe you don't understand what I'm saying because I'm not showing you all of that. But no. The reason that's verse 184 is because 184 is El-Kedama. I don't know how to pronounce it. The field of blood. Because it's the 42 months is the field of blood. And it's in that field of blood that their dead bodies will lie in the streets as Satan makes war against them and persecutes them. So back to verse 7, and when they shall have finished their testimonies, 99 sheep. The beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, Them is not 99 sheep, it's lost sheep. So just like the woman, okay, and maybe I'm beating this up now, but they have finished their testimony. The 99 sheep go home, child coming back. And the beast shall make war against them. That's little sister. Jew and Gentile, both, okay? Little sister. For how long? 3.5 days. Oh, day equals a year. 3.5 years. 42 months. 1,260 days. Daniel 7:21. 72:21. In 2021, when Israel was 72 on 4:9, 4:10, our Father cast Satan out of heaven and his angels and began to divide the firmament. He sends evil angels among them. Judgment is coming. Likened to a flood and to a storm. Why? Well, the word spirit is translated into the word wind a whole bunch. Oh, there's a direct connection there.